Perez here, Horror and Coffee. If you like what you see here, please consider subscribing. Tap on that bell for future notifications for future Horror and Coffee content. So I was looking through my list of what I'm going to do with the most anticipated horror movies of 2023, and I came across The First Omen. I was like, what? What the hell is that? The First Omen? I never heard of that. Apparently, it's a prequel. So I was kind of like bugging out. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm a big fan of the Omen franchise. I loved the first three films and the remake. I've been reading the books since I was in high school. So, I'm really invested in the Omen lore. The only thing is that now they're coming up with this, what appears to be a prequel, The First Omen. You mean there was other omens? What does that mean exactly? Right? So I started doing some research and I kept on looking. I looked through, the different websites, and it does mention it, and it mentions certain actors. One actor plays Father Spoleto. Now, who's Father Spoleto? For those of you who know who Father Spoleto is in the Omen, he's the priest in the very beginning of the movie with Gregory Peck's character, Robert Thorne. He tells him, oh, you should take the baby. Your wife doesn't have to know. Could be a blessing to her and to the child, because, that's how the movie starts, right? That Robert Thorne's wife loses the baby at childbirth. And in order for her to not be destroyed or devastated, he secretly takes this other baby whose mother apparently died at the same moment. And that's Damien. That's the Antichrist, right? So here we go. We're trying to figure this out. Now they got this, The First Omen. What does that mean? So they got a character, a man playing Father Spoleto in The First Omen, which implies to me that The First Omen must take place like at some point before the Omen, right? Like, so we're talking about what? Months, years, decades? What does that mean, right? So I don't know what that means. And what's interesting to me is that I kept on looking, and there's no information about pretty much the synopsis of the story. And for those of you who understand what the Omen's about, like I do, you all know that this is a very delicate series. The first Omen film came out during the mid-70s. It was during a time when there was a boom in movies that dwelled around the satanic, per se. Like The Exorcist had come out just a couple years prior to The Omen being released. And people had this interesting fascination with the demonic because it had a very realistic affiliation to many people's faiths, particularly the Christian one or Catholic one. So as time went on, these movies continued to make its roundabouts in the genre. Now, here's the thing. The idea of a prequel for The Omen really causes some alarm. When I first realized they were doing this, when I first saw this ad, I was like, at first very excited, but then I had to stop and realize what are they going to do here? And that's the thing that concerns me, because the way I look at it is that they could potentially make this really bad. It's either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. And I don't think there's an in-between here with a franchise like this. And that's what bothers me about it. Like the idea that somebody would literally make a story about this and I don't know. It's concerning. It's really concerning. Like I don't know if this is gonna work out. So I remember buying the book. This is my old copy of The Omen. Came out I picked this book up from a store near Yankee Stadium. I was about 14, I think, when I bought it. I remember it was the summer of '83, and this book was great. It grabbed me. I read it so many times. Look how worn out it is. The edges are brown. The covers are gone. Right now, what's interesting about this book is that when I saw the first Omen, it actually made me remember something I read from the book. Okay, and I will tell you what that is if I could find it. um, hold on for a second. I'm gonna show it to you right now. It's an interesting idea, but it makes sense. Here it is. Okay, check this out. This has to do about the Bugenhagens, right? If you remember Bugenhagen in the first Omen, who gave Robert Thorne the daggers to kill the Antichrist. Apparently, there was a lineage of them going back through history. I'm going to read you an excerpt from this chapter. He was seeking the man named Bugenhagen, a name linked with Satan since almost from the beginning of time. It was a Bugenhagen who, in the year 1092, found the first progeny of Satan and devised the means of putting it to death. It was again a Bugenhagen in 1710 who found the second issue and damaged it to the point where it would summon no earthly power. They were religious zealots, the watchdogs of Christ. Their mission, to keep the unholy one from walking the face of the earth. Okay. So when I thought of the first Omen, when I thought of this concept, I immediately thought of that because I remembered that. And I would have been like, you know what? If they made a movie based on that premise in the year 1092, the Antichrist was born in the year 1092. What was happening in the year 1092? Well, that was the time of the Dark Ages, right? And to be honest with you, a story like that would have been captivating. And that would have been captivating because there would have been no planes, no phones, no cars, no modern day things. We're talking about medieval stuff here, you know? Um, I would have liked to have seen that kind of scenario play out in that time period and what they were able to do to destroy the Antichrist back then. Apparently, the daggers of Megiddo would have been used. Apparently, they devised the means of putting it to death. That's what the book said through these daggers. The daggers are old. The daggers are ancient. They just didn't appear out of nowhere recently. Bugenhagen held on to it. The lineage held on to them, to make sure they were passed on from generation to generation to make sure that whenever the Antichrist was born into the world to take over, they would like wipe it out before it could do anything. So, that's what I would, if I was to think that the first Omen, as this title suggests, that's the way I would have looked at it. That's the way I would have looked at it, straight up. But since I know that the man named there's an actor playing Father Spoleto in this film, obviously they're not going in that direction. So I just don't understand how this works, how this is going to work. Now, there's a lot of story in the book about what happened decades, literally decades and years before the birth of the Antichrist, and that's described in the book. Maybe that's where maybe that's something they're gonna go into. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to tell. You know, we've always been as a species, if I could say it like this, fascinated with the concept of what the future holds. We always want to know what's going to happen. When will the world end? How will it end? Will it do this? Will it do that? Who's the Antichrist? Is it this person? Is it that person? Is it that? You know, these are very fascinating questions. And a lot of people are blown away by the mere thought of just investigating, right? That's why there have been so many books on the subject, so many movies on the subject, so many talks on the subject. You can even find it right here on YouTube. So many people talking about it, both from a secular standpoint, standpoint and from a religious one. So there's a lot going on there. So, again, in summary, if I have to say this, if this is a movie coming out in 2023, I'm definitely intrigued. I'm definitely interested. I want to invest myself into watching it. But I hold no high expectations. Because I've been disappointed once before with Omen 4 The Awakening, which was god-awful, right? I made a video all about that. What they're going to do with this, I have no clue. So we're going to just have to wait and see how it plays out. All right? So please tell me your thoughts about this. What do you think of this upcoming potential prequel to The Omen, the first Omen? Talk to me, comment below, share with me your thoughts, and let me know what you think. This is Ralph Perez, Horror and Coffee. Take care, guys.